011 is the number to call. Our next broadcast comes this Friday on February 27th. Syracuse men's lacrosse is going to try to avenge that loss to Harvard against another Ivy League foe, number 12 Princeton. Game time for that one is at 4, so McClure-Gramado and Countdown to Faceoff will hit our airwaves at 3:30. A bit of a longer break, though, for Syracuse men's basketball. Our next Hoops broadcast comes a week from today, Saturday, February 28th. Syracuse at Wake Forest. Game time for that is at 4:45. A bit of a shorter McClure-Gramado and Countdown to Tip-Off. We'll get things going here at 5:30. Some thank yous to hand out before we step aside for the double overtime. Our producer, Jish Sokolsky, our engineer, Josh Richardson, Jake Bowen on radio replay, and the entire WAER sports desk. Once again, I've been your host, Christian Doms. After Syracuse men's basketball loses to number 16 North Carolina, 77-64. All right, it's time to get into the double overtime with Adam Gotkin and Gino Antamarino. Guys, a really tough day across the board for Syracuse athletics. The men's lacrosse team losing to Harvard, and then Syracuse men's basketball in front of a big-time crowd just doesn't live up to the hype, doesn't live up to the standard. Just frustrating all across the board.
Yeah, without a doubt, Christian. I think a big surprise when it came to the men's lacrosse game, number 1 Syracuse losing. In terms of men's basketball, I don't think anyone didn't see this coming.
I didn't.
Really?
I did not see this coming.
You thought that Syracuse would actually have a chance to stay close in this game?
I thought they would have won this game. Why would they not win this game? This was a game without UNC's top scorer and Caleb Wilson. This was Henry Vasar's first game back in 2 games at the Dome. The most packed a college basketball game has been this season, and Syracuse gets embarrassed once again. I'm embarrassed to say it, Adam, but I thought they would have gotten it done.
I think you're delusional then because nothing has changed over the last 3 years. The coaching is still the coaching. The players are still simply not good enough to hold up against top 25 teams. And we saw that once again. The men's basketball team loses by 13 to North Carolina. The men's lacrosse team loses by 1 to Harvard. We'll break down both games, and it's the double overtime, and it starts right now.
The game may be over, but our coverage on WAER is not. Here on the double overtime, we'll be breaking down all the highs.
Carlos kicks out. Freeman contested the 3. It doesn't matter. It swirls home. The horn sounds, and Donnie Freeman sends this team into the locker room jumping for joy.
Starling from the right wing gets down the lane. His righty layup goes, and the Orange lead.
Calling all the way for it. Wants it on Suarez. Spins back to his right. Baby hook. Up. And it goes. And 1. Eddie Lampkin rocks the baby around the 3-point line.
And the lows.
100 matchups between Georgetown and Syracuse. A long 95-year history. The rivalry is alive and well. And today, the victors is Georgetown.
Low. Slices through the defense. Behind the back pass. Corhan sticks it up and in. A little razzle-dazzle from Jalen Lowe to Cam Corhan. And that one may be the dagger.
And thus ends the second season under Adrian Autry. And it finishes in the second round of the ACC tournament in 2025.
Delivering our hottest takes along the way.
But it just makes you wonder what is going on in practice, because each time that Adrian Autry takes the podium, it's a lot of, we're working on it.
We're getting better.
We're working on it. We're getting better. We're getting better. Well, sure, maybe in theory they're getting better.
They are, but
this is a fan base that needs you to be good now.
Say this about Syracuse basketball is crazy, because the brand of Syracuse basketball that I grew up knowing is so far distant from where this team is at now. But, I mean, we could be talking about Syracuse at the bottom of the ACC.
I don't think this team makes the ACC tournament at this rate.
Get your voice heard by calling in at 315-443-2011. Or check out our YouTube at WAER Sports Talk. It's the double overtime, and it starts right now.
That's right. This is the double overtime, and it does start right now. I'm Adam Gotkin alongside Gino Antamarino. We've got 2 games to talk about today. Syracuse men's basketball loses yet again, 77-64 to number 16 North Carolina. And number 1 Syracuse men's lacrosse loses by 1 on the road, 13-12 against number 14 Harvard. We'll talk about both games. If you want to call in, talk about either, feel free. We are going to start talking about basketball and get into the lacrosse game later on, just because the basketball game was on these airwaves. But don't worry, we will talk lacrosse later if you want to. But first, basketball. Gino, I was not surprised at all by the final score of this game. I thought that Syracuse was going to lose by more at home. Everyone listening, what did you think? Were you surprised that Syracuse lost this by 13? Did you think it was going to be closer, more of a blowout? Let us know. Call in 315-443-2011. Gino, I said it at halftime to you that I thought Syracuse was going to lose by 20, and if it wasn't for a couple Tyler Betsy threes, they probably would have.
Listen, I was fortunate enough to go to the Dean Dome not too long ago and watch this same Syracuse team crumble and then all of a sudden make it a 7-point game in the second half late and lose that game by 10. And I was thinking to myself going into this weekend, you know, if UNC is down without Caleb Wilson, their top scorer, a projected top 5 pick in this year's NBA draft, and also you throw in that Henry Vasar was out the last 2 games. He's back in the mix, but, you know, is it one of those things where is it rust or rest, whatever you want to talk about? And I thought Syracuse had a chance because of that, and I was proven wrong once again.
I never thought Syracuse had a chance because the coaching has never changed, and we've got Dave from Liverpool on the line who wants to talk about just that. Dave, I'm assuming you were not very surprised, were you?
Just very upset. Very upset. I took many pages worth of notes, and but I want to make a few points here. Autry is a very poor coach because not a single player for SU has played up to their potential this year.
Fully agree.
They have no assists every game. They don't play like a team. They act like they have never played together. And remember, their best game of the year was their very first game of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, Dave, I totally agree with you. And the biggest thing that sticks out to me, and we were going to get to him right off the bat, was Donnie Freeman. You talk about guys not playing to their potential. I mean, 9 points today. He was 0 for 2 in the first half and gets 2 technicals, is out of the game. He's frustrated. I mean, that's a guy who was projected going into this season to be one of the top picks in the NBA draft. And now you're looking at a guy who might go undrafted. So you talk about Adrian Autry hasn't gotten his guys to that level or to take that next step. I mean, there's a prime example. He looked terrible today.
For one thing, too many of the SU players don't know how to handle the ball.
Right.
You know what I mean? And they don't have a single shooter on the team. And if I have to point out every single category they're poor in, they're poor on defensive rebounding, they're poor on offensive rebounding, they're poor on defense down low, they're poor on defense up high. Not a single one of the guards can stay with anybody. There's not a single shooter on the team. They don't play like a team. This team has a lot of some individual talent, and if they had a better coach, maybe each player could develop their talent a little bit more. But they act like they don't practice. For example, I would take out a player right away if he came down and just shot a 3-point shot. You know what I mean? I don't know why the players can't pass the ball around a little bit and try to get into a rhythm before they shoot the 3-point shot.
Dave, I'm totally with you. Thank you so much for the call. Really, really appreciate it. Gino,
great points.
I said this after the Iowa State game at the end of the Vegas tournament, that based on how Syracuse played in that game when they got blown out, showing that they have those lulls, I knew that was going to be a thing throughout the entire season, where they just don't play an entire 40 minutes. And I thought we saw that today, where the first 4 minutes, they scored 10 points. They were playing pretty well.
Down by 5 at halftime.
Yeah, not that bad, but the inability to stay focused and composed for the entirety of the game has just been the downfall of this team.
And I think, and to your point, it's not playing the full 40 minutes, as you mentioned, but I also think it's a lack of adjustments made.
Oh, yeah.
And I've seen time and time again, Syracuse comes out in the first half, And for the most part, I mean, even if they're trailing most of it, it's a closer game. I mean, even the Duke game, they were making things a little bit interesting down the stretch in that first half. And then obviously Duke went into halftime up by, 10? But against the number 3 team in the country, that's
not
pretty
awful.
good. And in Cameron Indoor, and they go into the second half, all of a sudden, 3 minutes in, they're down by 20. It's the lack of adjustments made at halftime. I saw it in the Miami game at the Dome. I saw it in the UNC game on the road. They go into the break, and they just come out looking like the exact same team that went into the break when the other teams and the opponents are making changes. They're changing the rotations. They're switching up the schematics. Syracuse just comes out in the second half expecting it to be just like the first, and they just look flat-footed.
Yeah, you can't win a basketball game if you don't make adjustments. At home, what do you think? What's been the biggest cause for Syracuse's bad play, not just today, but this entire season? Call in 315-443-2011. I think something that, proves, I guess, our point here of it being not being able to play a full 40 minutes and this team not adjusting is that there are points where we see the talent on full display. There's moments where in the second half, Donnie Freeman was really playing aggressive on the offensive end. He was putting his shoulder into guys and making sure he was getting to that right hand. He wasn't letting the defenders
it's too much or too little from him.
But here's the thing.
He's either too emotional or there's no emotion at all.
Yes, and here's the thing, though. It's what Dave was saying. It's that he doesn't get any help. No one around him is giving Donnie any help.
It's pick-up basketball.
It is.
It really is.
But you see in those stretches, and we see it almost every game, there is talent. That has never been lost, I think, all season, that there are guys on this team who, if they had a competent coach, would be able to come together and I think make the NCAA tournament. At this point, I don't know because
I totally agree with you.
They're so far away from it, but
it's almost like, not to cut you off there, Adam, but it's almost like, to your point, there's no cohesion. It's not a group effort. It's a one-man show, and a one-man show at all times. I immediately think back to the Notre Dame game when J.J. Starling came out in that first half, guns a-blazing. I think he only missed one shot in the first half, and then the second half completely disappeared, and then Nate Kings had a great game. So there's been too many games where it's one guy steps up, and then everybody else kind of steps back, and there needs to be a more balanced attack.
If you remember the game against NC State last year when Chris Bell had that crazy first half and Draymond Green was like, what did he say? I could easily stop this, and then he didn't score in the second half. So, yeah, we've seen it time and time again. And we've got John from Liverpool on the line who wants to talk about this game. John, what are you thinking?
Well, I thought that it was heading towards a game that was going to be a close game until Starling turned the ball over with about 10 minutes to go. Very careless turnover, and he was really hot, and it seemed to cool him off. So yeah. I don't think they necessarily would have won the game, but I think that was a turning point. We had the momentum, and then that was very careless turnover. This team has done that, whether it was Nate George or somebody else makes a careless play that seems to kill our momentum and start momentum for the other team. But I don't know about you guys, but I thought that kind of was a momentum swing right there, that turnover with about 10 minutes to go. I thought that swung the momentum, and we never got it back.
I agree with you, John, and I think the thing that was kind of upsetting about that is that, I don't know about you, I thought that this was maybe the best game that JJ played all season. He had a season-high 22 points. I mean, did you think that he was good other than that one turnover and kind of after that? Because I thought, his first half especially, he's the reason Syracuse was still in this game.
I agree.
I told my friend the only way we were going to win this game is if Starling scores 20 points in the second half, and it looked like he was going to.
Mm-hmm.
And then he made that turnover, and everything changed. This team has made mistakes all year that kind of killed momentum for him. But I think he would have scored 20 if he didn't get careless there. It looked like he was unstoppable. He was going to score 20 points, and we were probably going to go right down to the wire and maybe win or lose a close one, but I thought that was the momentum changer in the game.
Dave, thank you so much for the call. Or John, sorry, thank you so much for the call. Really appreciate it. We've got 2 people from Liverpool calling in early on. We really appreciate it. If you want to join Dave and John, you can call in 315-443-2011. We're on the air until 5 p.m. talking about Syracuse men's basketball's loss to North Carolina. We'll also get into the men's lacrosse team's loss to Harvard in a little bit. Just an overall tough day for Syracuse athletics, and something that I think made this game, I don't know if it was more frustrating or just interesting to want to watch and talk about, is the fact that this game had some gravitas to it. It was on ABC. It was the only ACC game on ABC all season. The biggest crowd in the Dome. JJ was playing towards that and emotional and really playing with passion, and it felt like that was something.
0 for 2 in the first half was really passionate.
Yeah, and it felt like that was something. JJ.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was
Donnie.
Donnie.
Sorry,
Donnie was out of it. JJ was playing passionately.
Yes, you're right, JJ.
And I felt like he was the guy who kept Syracuse in this game. But I think John was right, where after that turnover happened, you can kind of feel it. Everyone in the Dome knows, all right, this is done.
Yeah, there's 2 notes. One of those is that's the job of the coaching, where you talked about when that moment happens, Adrian Autry's got to pull his guys and say, listen, we got to snap out of this, because one bad turnover shouldn't just be, okay, we're done playing, or just because we're down by a certain threshold or deficit doesn't mean that you just you stop playing. That's Adrian Autry. He's got to rally his guys. But going back to what we were talking about the cohesiveness, I want to talk about Nate Kings. This is someone today had 4 points, 2 for 6 from the field, 0 for 2 from 3 in 20 minutes of play. And not only that, he had 4 fouls, and he had 4 fouls with 16 minutes left in the game. This is someone, you want to talk about inconsistencies. You want to talk about guys not stepping up every single game. I think, I believe going into the North Carolina game, the first North Carolina game, obviously, he was split. Half of his games were in double figures. Half of his games were in single digits, and he just continues that trend. He cannot be consistent for an entire season. It's either he's on or he's off, and he's someone that everyone says, oh, he's the guy. He's the guy. Well, 4 points today. How is he going to be the guy when J.J. Starling is the only one to finish in double digits, other than Betsy, who had 10 points? But, I mean, still, Betsy was the only one to hit threes, too.
Yeah. He went 3 for 5 as a team. They were 3 for 17.
It's ugly.
Yeah. Here's my thing with Nate Kings. He is a very talented shooter, and you like what he can do on the defensive end. He's a good basketball player. But there's no world in which you can ask Nate Kings to lead you to victory. He is on a good team,
but that's
a very good
but
number
Adam, that's not
3 or number 4.
But my point, and I know you agree with me, I'm not asking Kings to be LeBron James. I'm not saying he's got to be the number 1 option. But why is there only allowed to be one player to have a good game for Syracuse? Why can't there be multiple games where we can look at the entire lineup, or give me 3 guys that we can just look at and say, oh yeah, all 3 of those guys had good games today? It's no, it's either Starling had a first half and then Kings had a good second half, or it's only this guy had a good game. Why does it only have to be a certain amount of guys for this Syracuse team?
I'll tell you what I think it is. It's opposing coaches scouting, picking and choosing, where do we want Syracuse to get its points? Because if you're an opposing coach or any coach in basketball, the other team is going to score. It's going to happen, so you build your defense in a way of, we're okay if we let JJ take these shots, and sometimes he'll make them, sometimes he won't. And, I think UNC had a very strong intention of not allowing Nate Kings to get open, to get his shots, not allowing William Kyle to do anything down low. Henry Vasar did a great job defending Kyle, who had just 4 points and attempted just 4 shots. And I thought that the way Hubert Davis game planned really made it so that JJ kind of had to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
there weren't great looks for Nate Kings all game. Like he only attempted 2 threes. There's no world in which Nate Kings should ever attempt 2 threes.
I agree.
Like there should be at least 4 or 5 plays drawn up each game to get him a shot.
I totally agree. But I mean, let's just go down. I just want to rattle off a few names and a few stats for Syracuse here. We already talked about Donnie Freeman. He finished with 9 points after having an abysmal first half. He gets 2 techs. He's out of the game. And then you have Nate Kings, 4 points, 2 for 6 from the field, 0 for 2 from 3 like you were talking about there, Adam. 4 fouls with 16 minutes left in the second half. William Kyle had 4 points, and, he had a good defensive outing. He had 8 boards, a block, and 2 steals. But, we talked about the comparison between his game and Vesar's game. I mean, Vesar is so smooth down low, and Kyle is just he's very stiff. He doesn't have that soft touch around the rim. He's either dunking it or he's just grabbing a board, which is fine, but you'd like him to add that aspect to his game at some point. Sadiq White, 6 points in 18 minutes. He was a minus 12. But someone else I wanted to mention, Kyan Anthony, had 2 points, 0 for 2 in 14 minutes, and this was a guy that everyone was saying, well, how dare Adrian Autry bench him? Yeah. Well, I mean, he's 0 for 2, and he had 2 points in 14 minutes. That's why.
Yeah, his points came on free throws, and he didn't do much and wasn't playing great defense. But I want to go back to that Will Kyle, Henry Vesar conversation for a second, because, I think Kyle has been probably the most impressive player this season for Syracuse.
I would agree.
I think
the most consistently good at what he does.
Yes.
In terms of, like, if you were to say, okay, Kings and Betsy are your 3-point specialists. You've got Kyle. You expect him to be a lockdown defender and grabbing you boards. I think if you put every player into a category and you had to pick one guy who was the best at doing their respective thing, yes, William Kyle is that.
But here's the thing, and this is why I think the matchup today exposed why he's not at the level that maybe some people thought he could be at the start of the season of being an all-ACC guy. Is he is very one-dimensional of just being an athlete. Vesar was putting him through school down low in terms of his footwork, and then had the ability to go and shoot threes and stretch the floor. Like, Syracuse needs to find a center that can do more than just one thing.
Eddie Lampkin wasn't that?
No, he could do one thing, which was just take up space. Kyle's one thing is being athletic. Like, you need a guy who, he's an athlete and he has good post moves and can actually be, decent down low, like Jesse Edwards. Or you get a guy who can be, pretty versatile and stretch the floor like Vesar is. All right, we've got Mitch from Solvay on the line who's got a question for us. Mitch, what are you wondering?
And he has good post moves and can actually be decent.
I was just wondering if anybody thought of studying the entire team for ADD syndrome.
Well, I mean, yeah, that might be a thing. And thank you so much, Mitch. We really appreciate it. I'll tell you, our generation, they say, has it all the time. I've got it very strictly and strong, I should say. And yeah, maybe they don't focus well. But here's the thing. You have to find a way to get these kids to listen to you. And there's a reason that a lot of coaches have retired recently in college basketball because the players are tough to deal with.
The word you said, Adam, kids. Are we treating these guys like amateur college players? Or now that they're getting paid and they're supposed to go out there, this is their job, are we treating them like professionals? I think it's...
Do we want to have the, ethical discussion right now about how we should treat college athletes? Because I can.
I just think
I agree with you.
You shouldn't have to have this conversation. Okay, you got to listen to your coach. It's like, no, there is no ands, if, or buts. You got to listen to your coach, or we're not going to pay you millions of dollars to come play for us.
I agree that things change now that these guys get paid, especially in men's college basketball and in football when they're not just getting paid a little bit. These guys are getting paid millions of dollars.
Right.
They're legitimately life-changing money, millions of dollars. There has to be accountability. This is not, and to the Syracuse fan base, it is a very, very, I'm trying to think of the nicest way to say this, but a soft fan base that doesn't like to hear criticism. But the fact of the matter is, we now live in a world where these players are making millions of dollars. They deserve to be criticized.
What do you mean by Syracuse fans don't like to hear criticism?
Go on Twitter and you see any time it's not as bad now because I think everyone's kind of expected. Towards the players, towards the coaches, and again, I think it's a little bit different
fans
now.
Don't like to see players get called out.
Yes, fans do not like to see players get called out on social media. Like that is.
Oh, I disagree.
I think it's changed a little bit recently, but it was bad with the football team. You noticed
I think
it whenever
just take the double overtime. This show, for example. I mean, you got people calling in and complaining about how Nate George is supposed to be the facilitator in this game. Well, he's got 3 turnovers and 1 assist.
Yes, because we've gotten to a point, and I think our callers on the double overtime, who are incredible, and if you would like to call in and join the conversation, feel free, 315-443-2011. But, our callers are the biggest fans of Syracuse basketball.
Sure.
The people who take their time to call in, who think, but there's a much bigger fan base than that.
Fair.
Like, you have to think about the casual fans and the people who are going to the Dome. And, there are a lot of them in Syracuse. Think about the fact that when this team is good, there are 35,000 people in that building. And today they're making a big deal about 23,000. Those people, I see a lot on Twitter saying, oh, well, Autry's a legend. Oh, well, these guys are just kids. Like, there has to be accountability. Like, there fully has to be accountability for
100%.
This team not being respectable anymore on a national stage.
And I would also say that Adrian Autry takes a lot of flack. And to be honest with you, a lot of that is deserved. Anytime you want to criticize his coaching style, that's one thing. Obviously, I totally disagree if you go at him as a man 100%. On a personal level.
He's a Syracuse legend as a player,
right.
And that's why this is so unfortunate.
And it's not like he took this job saying, man, I really hope I can mess up this team. Like,
no.
He's trying his best. It didn't work out, right? But like to your point, Adam, there has to be a level where you can also look at the players and say, yeah, the players also didn't really help the situation. Like, Adrian Autry's not great, but the players also underperformed.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what I'm getting at is there has to be both. Because I do think a lot of the talk now has been, all right, Autry's bad. Like, these players, at the end of the day, have not played as well as they could have.
No. I mean, look at
Donnie today.
Going to your point when you talked about, William Kyle has been the most impressive, and then I kind of went on a little bit of a tangent there saying he has been, if you put the players in boxes and said, okay, William Kyle is your defender, he's your, rebounder, and then you have Nate Kings and Tyler Betsy as your 3-point specialists. You've got Kyan Anthony, that, firecracker coming off the bench, Nathan George, the facilitator, right? If you had to put all these players in boxes, Kyle has been the best so far in that regard. But I just think that it's too many. There's too many guys that are not living up to those expectations, like you were saying. I mean, Kings has not been hitting threes as well as he did last season coming into this year. George has taken a major step back in terms of the facilitation. Sometimes he's averaging, he's getting 7 assists plus, but he's also getting 5 turnovers plus. His assist to turnover ratio is amongst the worst in the ACC and amongst the worst in the country. And as someone that was supposed to come in and be smart with the ball, help set up the offense, you can't be getting assists while also simultaneously giving the ball away.
No. And also, I do think, I don't think this team necessarily was ever built to succeed with the players that it has.
I think looking back on it, yeah.
Because you talk about the different, archetypes that Syracuse has. You also then have to bring up the fact that they have 2 guards who simply can't shoot.
Yeah.
Nate George and J.J. Starling cannot shoot threes. They're both low 30% three-point shooters.
Sure.
So, with that already puts you at a big disadvantage. And then you just had to hope and pray.
Kings and you thought Betsy were going to be your 3 guys.
But like one of them was going to be on the bench at one point. Like both weren't starting.
Yeah.
Like I don't. I said this last year, and I got a lot of flack for it online. That I thought they should have told J.J. Starling to move on and go somewhere else. Because a 6'4" shooting guard who can't shoot threes is not a winning formula for basketball.
No.
Especially now that he can't even like shoot free throws or drive with any aggressiveness.
I mean, I think he showed today that he can still be effective.
And he did. And, you know, he's been through injuries and he's had a lot of them. I mean, that shoulder injury before he got here, he was dealing with the hand stuff at the start of this season.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I mean, in terms of JJ.
He's been through a lot. He's been through a lot. But, again, he's shown that he can still be a leader on the team.
Yeah, but he also, at times, has just not been there. And we've got a caller, JT from Michigan. JT, what are your thoughts about yet another Syracuse loss? JT, we got you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you got me right here. What a great night by Starling, though.
Yeah, he did play well, but, I mean, this was the best game of his season, and it still wasn't enough.
I thought a little more in the second half when he hit that drought.
Yeah.
Yeah. JT from all the way from Michigan. Were you at the game today, or were you watching it on TV?
Yes, I was at the game.
What'd you think?
I really enjoyed it. Loved the atmosphere. Largest crowd of the year, I'm told.
Yes, yeah, it was. It was pretty good. I mean, Syracuse down by 5 at halftime. They thought maybe Syracuse had a little bit of a chance, but then all of a sudden, like it has been all season long, Syracuse collapses in the second half.
I thought they might have panicked a little bit late. They're only down by 10. All of a sudden, it was just quick shot, quick three. I mean, with 3 minutes to go, you're down 10. You still got plenty of time.
Yeah,
you got to slow it down. You got to slow it down.
There just wasn't any composure today, JT. And, you know, were you surprised? Like, did you think at the start of this game after, you know, Syracuse scored 10 points in the first 4 minutes that, like, today would be different? Or did you think that they would regress to where they've been all season?
Well, I thought those young men showed a lot of heart, and they were ready to go at the start. North Carolina a little more poised, and obviously Trimble and Valsar are incredible players. So, like, that's tough. I feel like if Syracuse could have, you know, just shared the ball a little bit more in the second half, I think they could have got the win.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a recipe for success, and it just seems like it's been a lot of isolation in terms of the offense for Syracuse. A lot of ISO ball, a lot of hero ball, just kind of give it to one guy and let him go to work instead of that cohesiveness like you were talking about, JT, for the North Carolina side. I mean, that is a unit when they are working, and that's a hard offense to stop, and especially with Caleb Wilson not in the lineup, this is going to be a scary team come March.
You know, very, very well said. They're just so much more cohesive. Obviously, Freeman's such a talent. It's enticing to just go to him and clear everybody out. But ACC, North Carolina's defense, you know, you just can't win games doing it that way.
Yeah, without a doubt. JT, thank you so much for the call. I think you're perfectly right there. You can't expect Donnie Freeman to go up and get a bucket against a great defender because, well, they're also really good. Your great player can't just, he'll just go score because, well, they'll just get a stop. All right, well, we've talked a lot of basketball here. There was also a big lacrosse game today. Number 1 Syracuse played at number 14 Harvard and lost by 1. We've got our friend Dan Papillo, who was at the game in Cambridge, Dan Shalom joining us. Dan Papillo is on the call. Dan Shalom will be joining us.
A lot of Dans.
I know, they make things confusing for us, but Dan Shalom will be joining us to talk a little bit about that game. If you want to talk more basketball, though, Sam Reese, who is in the Dome as our reporter, will be coming in studio to talk some more hoops in a little bit. So we've got a whole lot to talk about here on the Double Overtime on WAER Syracuse. We'll be with you for the next hour, so don't go anywhere.
There is a one-stop listen for everything Syracuse athletics.
Syracuse men's lacrosse had arguably maybe Gary Gates' best weekend ever as head coach.
The Ostrom Avenue podcast provides unique opinions, plus exciting interviews from industry experts.
The voice of Syracuse men's lacrosse and Syracuse women's basketball as well. Tim Leonard, Javon Edmonds of Syracuse.com.
Check out weekly episodes and listen at WAER.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
Thanks for listening. We hope you're enjoying this WAER sports broadcast. Our sports staff goes where the teams go, home and away, and prepare for days before each game broadcast. Our talk show and podcast hosts analyze games, pore over stats, and keep up on sports trends. These and many behind-the-scenes opportunities are made possible by listener donations. So if you're a fan or an alum, donate to keep our sports legacy strong at WAER.org and click donate.
A new sitcom stars Tracy Morgan as a disgraced former football star who tries to stage a comeback by making a documentary about himself. What could go wrong?
Part of what was funny to us was being confident and wrong is one of our favorite things.
Showrunner Robert Carlock joins us to talk about the new TV series, The Fall and Rise of Reggie Dinkins, on the next morning edition from NPR News.
Tomorrow morning from 5 to 9 on WAER, your local NPR station from the Newhouse School at Syracuse University.
If you really love somebody, if you love someone, if you love somebody, if you love someone, how do you set them free? For Snap's Fever series, we proudly present Love's Actually. Snap Judgment storytelling with the beat. Do not miss it.
Sunday morning at 10 on 88.3 FM WAER.
Jockeying for position. Pressure comes from Pitt McCourty. High shot. Spallina rips it. Oh, Joey Spallina doing what he does best. Getting an opportunity in space and not wasting it.
We welcome you back inside the double overtime with my good friend Adam Gotkin. I'm Gino Antmarino. You heard Dan Papillo there on the call. Joey Spallina, 2 goals today, 3 points. But at the end of the day, number 1 Syracuse falling to number 14 Harvard by 1 on the road in Cambridge, 13-12. And right off the bat, Adam, this was a game that as soon as we were simultaneously watching and listening to our broadcast of it, you could just tell that this was going to be a tough game, not only because Harvard always plays Syracuse tough. I mean, 2 meetings last year, one in the NCAA tournament and then one in the regular season, and they were all decided by one goal, right? But also just
don't.
What?
You better not blame this on it being outside.
No, I was just going to say it adds an extra element to it, you have to say. I mean, I'm not going to say that was the reason.
Like I hate that excuse so much.
First road game of the year for Syracuse. You go in Cambridge, it's cold, it's snowy, guys were slipping.
Oh, it's cold.
Listen,
it's
I'm
snowy.
not saying that was the excuse.
You play the sport, you play lacrosse.
Adam, I'm not saying it's the excuse, but I'm saying it definitely played a factor into it.
I don't think it played a factor. I think if
snow might have gotten in the eyes of Jimmy McCool, I'll tell you
maybe. That. Maybe. He did not have a good game. It comes down to this, in my mind. Syracuse lost its composure and made 2 horrific mistakes at the end of the game. That offsides with a minute 30 left, after an incredible defensive stand in a tie game, to go offsides while you're clearing. You have an open clear, and unfortunately it's the freshman Jaden Kittleberger who's been incredible all season, but that offside is completely unacceptable. That cannot happen when you're the number 1 team in the country, and you deserve to lose after making a mistake like that.
And then also that Joey Spallina with 40 seconds left, just taking it to the cage, a tight angle shot, trying to force something there, and Pants, Graham Stevens, the goalie for Harvard, who's a sophomore, he's been stellar for the Crimson, shut Joey Spallina down, and with 40 seconds left, you lose possession. They just come down and hold. All right, well, we watched it on our own downstairs in the basement here on our Ostrom Avenue studios, but someone who was at the game and got a glimpse of the conditions up and personal that I was talking about earlier was our WAER reporter, Dan Shalom, who's on the line. Dan, right off the bat, I want to get your thoughts on this game and how you thought Syracuse kind of handled the situation out there in Cambridge.
Well, great to be with you guys, first off. And I honestly thought that Syracuse off the top did a pretty good job. I mean, they let up the first goal of the game, but then they scored, 4 in a row, and they were leading 4-1 at the end of the first. You thought everything was sunshine and rainbows. They were playing like a number one team. And then I think the second quarter is really where you pinpoint where really everything went wrong in this game. Syracuse went scoreless for the first time in a quarter this season, trailed at the half for the first time this year. Harvard really exposed them on the defensive end, and more importantly, though, showed that Syracuse's offense can be stopped, and once you shut down Joey Spallina and Michael Leo like Harvard did in that second quarter, the Orange really just didn't have an answer. They didn't know what to do.
Yeah, Dan, this is a Syracuse offense that has been streaky over the last few years. That's nothing new with this group, but to go scoreless in a quarter in a game like that is,
First
another
scoreless
level
quarter of the season for Syracuse.
Yeah, and to me at least, I thought a lot of it was, unfortunately, Joey Spallina's inability to beat short sticks. There were a number of times in that second quarter, but throughout the entire game, where he would get the switch, get the matchup, and then he just didn't win it. And he did a couple times and got a couple goals on it, but I thought that Harvard seemed to be very okay with letting Joey have a short stick, and he didn't really do what he had to do.
No, he didn't at all, and you're right. He won it a couple of times, but the thing is, Harvard knew what to do. I mean, we talked with their head coach after the game, and with Jerry Byrne, and he said that the whole point of what they were doing was to just shut Joey Spallina and Michael Leo down. And this is a Harvard team that knows Syracuse's MO, especially at its peak now over the last year. They played them twice last year. Harvard remembered everything, and the interesting thing that Byrne said was he felt that his team was overcoaching their defense over the last few matchups. So they were more hands-off this time, and really Yost de Koning as well was beautiful in this game on the defensive end for Harvard. He had a few great plays, and then Graham Stevens. But overall, Adam, you mentioned Joey Spallina having some trouble. He also just was ripping shots at the beginning of the shot clock. Syracuse really didn't have that many drawn-out possessions today. That was another reason why they fell in this one, in my opinion.
You talked. You mentioned how you talked to Coach Byrne there for Harvard. Dan, did you get the chance to talk with head coach Gary Gait? And if so,
we did talk with Gary
thoughts?
Gait, and he was very short. He was clearly not very pleased to be talking with the media after this loss.
No, really?
He felt like they were. He said that he felt this team was prepared heading in. They practiced outdoors all week long heading into this game.
Thank you,
and he just felt like the better team won today. I mean, that was him after the game. He said it just came down to runs. At the end of the game, Harvard had the last chance, and they scored. It was as simple as that. And I asked him about the turnovers as well. He just said it's sloppy play, and that anyone Syracuse plays, doesn't matter the ranking, is going to give them a tough game, and that college lacrosse is pretty competitive this year. So all the kind of coachisms you would expect after the game.
Yeah, I mean, it is an extremely competitive sport this year. But another thing is I gave Spallina a tough time. Some of those middies, I think, deserve a tough time, too. Like Bo Kahn, nowhere to be seen today.
He had a goal.
Matt
in the
McEntee,
he was nowhere.
Matt McEntee, Tyler McCarthy, they both scored one. But I don't
think Matt McEntee had a big goal, to be fair.
He did have that big goal, but I don't think they did enough to move the defense throughout the game. McEntee has incredible speed. He is very fast, but he initiates his dodges so far away from goal that I think it hurts him a lot, because by the time, if he's doing a split dodge, he's splitting outside the box. And then by the time you'd be ready to shoot, he's maybe 3 yards past the top of the box, and it's way, way too far out, especially against college goalies.
You're 100% right. And another problem was Syracuse's offense was just way too predictable today, guys.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you also felt that way when watching the game, but I mean, I was sitting there and it was just like in that second quarter, okay, let's try again. Let's try it again. You know, we're going to shoot a quick shot. Hopefully we get the backup and we're just going to ping pong it around. And hopefully at the end, Splina can, rip off some magic. And that's how they got a few of those goals in the first quarter. And I think that's what they expected, but Harvard wouldn't let up and they made the ball movement, which is really Syracuse's bread and butter at the end of the day, just so hard in this game to move anything. The Syracuse offense was exposed like we just haven't seen all season.
Yeah,
I mean, Harvard did that today.
Absolutely. Gino Antamarino, Adam Gotkin here on the double overtime up until 5 o'clock right now, talking with our WAER reporter out in Harvard, taking in the Syracuse lacrosse loss to the Crimson by 1 here with Dan Shalom. A couple of bright spots, Dan, for Syracuse. Luke Roa had himself a hat trick, someone that really came to play in today's game, but also Finn Thompson. He had 2 goals, and he had that beautiful, wicked behind-the-back shot from several yards out. Definitely a couple of good plays to mention. Michael Leo had a goal and 4 assists, but I want to hone in on Luke Roa because I thought this was sort of his kind of I was kind of waiting for him to get going at some point this season. I think this was his game.
Luke Roa last season, too, he's kind of a guy where he doesn't deliver every game, but when he does deliver, he just goes nuclear, and he did that in this game, and that's something that Syracuse can carry into next week against Princeton, which now that's a Princeton team you can't even look at anymore and think they're maybe not as good as they were last season because they just knocked off Maryland. But back to Luke Roa, he was fantastic in this game. He was just stepping down and letting it rip, and that was the thing that Syracuse kind of was hesitating to do across the board. Sure, Joey Splina was, ripping it fast, but those quality chances where you're not thinking and you're just shooting, Michael Leo is the best at that, and really today, Harvard took that away from him, and Luke Roa had to step in and fill the void. Still not enough, but, you're 100% right that Luke Roa finally had one of those games that we saw plenty of last season where he was dominating on the offensive end.
Yeah, Dan, you talked about the hesitancy and Roa not having that. I was watching the game with Adam, and there was several times where Joey Splina, you talked about him, would have a great dodge, free up his shooting hand, and then he would just kind of walk it back out. And Adam's yelling in the basement, shoot, what are you doing?
I'm one of those lacrosse dads already.
But you were absolutely right, Adam. There were several times where you just almost wanted Joey to either take it to the heart or just rip a shot off because he's skilled. I mean, some of those goals he pulled off against Maryland last week were tight angle, and he just put in the ball on cage, and he's got the skill to pull those type of shots off. And in today's game, especially against Harvard in general, it just seems like Splina, you gotta give credit to Harvard in the defensive matchups, but it just seems like he's a little bit too hesitant at times. Wouldn't you say that, Adam, as well?
They know what they're doing. I mean, they know what they're doing at this point if you're Harvard against Splina. It was only a matter of time until they shut him down. I mean, they did exactly that today.
I think something else that Harvard did well and that Syracuse struggled with is, other than Roa, who had 3 goals, Splina, who had 2, and Thompson, who had 2, no one else had a multi-goal game. Mm-hmm. So, yes, like Leo had 1, McEntee had that important goal. But
Leo had 4 assists, though.
Yes, he did. Leo did have 4 assists. But the fact that none of those other guys could get hot, I think, was one of the things that really hurt Syracuse. You need more than 3 players to have multiple goals.
I mean, speaking of guys getting hot, how about just face-offs?
Yeah,
John Mullen,
not great.
Really, and you were expecting more from him. 15-14. Jerry Byrne talked about it after the game. He was like, John Mullen is no doubt the best face-off guy in the nation. But we finally were able to, actually split that battle. And that was a large part of why we won, because if you remember the game last year in the regular season against Harvard and even in the postseason, they would just fully sell out on the faceoff to drop their defense back. But today, they were actually winning them, and they had even possessions with Syracuse, and that was why they were able to get across the line.
Yeah, of the 29 faceoffs, Syracuse had the edge by 1. You hit the nail on the head there, Dan, and it's obviously a game plan. If you talked about Coach Burns saying that, that was a focus coming into today, I want to hear something else that anything else that you got from either Coach Byrne or Coach Gate that you thought was interesting there, Dan?
I think one thing that Coach Gate talked about a lot was just this road trip and being outside. And I know you're going to knock it at him, but he did talk about how this was the team's first time out there on the road and that this is an adjustment period for this team. I mean, they're going to be playing 6 straight. They've been trying to get outside. That's been a large talking point of this program the last couple of years, is that they don't know how to play outside. And, I mean, Gary was just kind of urging for some patience and some time, because they still have 5 more to go here on the road, and they got a great Princeton team coming up. So I think the big thing that he was, kind of pushing after the game was that anybody can beat anybody as of right now, and that we need to get used to being able to play in environments like this. And Jordan Field today only holds 1,300 people, and there were 4,000 fans at this game.
Yeah, it looked
the stands were packed. There were people lining up, standing on a foot of snow. I mean, this was
That's
just
awesome.
absurd. It was 30 degrees outside. It was windy. Nobody cared, but Gate mentioned that those elements are things that his team needs to get used to, and that they still have a long way to go.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. Anyone can beat anyone, and this is a very good learning point for Syracuse. However, one thing that I thought really wasn't great today, and, it's not the first time that he hasn't been great in this matchup, was Jimmy McCool. There were a number of moments where it felt like there should have been an easy save, and he just didn't make it. Last year in the regular season, he got benched for Michael Ippoliti. I was calling for that again at one point in this game, because Ippoliti is really good when he's gotten the chances. Was there any talk of that? Did you think he could have gotten benched?
I mean, I get it, and I get the argument, but I really don't think that this game was McCool's fault. I mean, he had 7 saves there in the third quarter, which really held this game close. And when Syracuse went on that huge scoreless drought, he was doing everything asked of him in the second quarter. But at the same time, Harvard at this point has played Syracuse 3 times, and I don't know about you, Adam, but I could certainly tell that they were targeting Jimmy McCool low to low, and they beat him there a few times as well. That's his weakness, and they knew it from playing him 2 times before and just attacked the 5-hole. Some bouncers in there as well. It just made it really hard, and we know that the low to low can be a weakness for McCool, and Harvard just exploited it to the maximum.
Dan Shalom joining us here on the Double Overtime. We'll be here, Adam and I, until 5 o'clock. We got Syracuse men's basketball to unpack as well, so if you want to talk about Syracuse men's basketball, make sure you stay tuned here on the Double Overtime. But right now we're talking about men's lacrosse, the number 1 team in the country, falling to number 14 Harvard by 1 on the road at Harvard, talking with Dan Shalom, our WAER reporter who was there. You talked about Jimmy McCool. I want to talk about the other goaltender in this game, Graham Stevens, who they call Pants. He's someone that I remember talking to him after the game in the regular season last year, and he was a freshman at the time, and he had a great game, and he was obviously out of this world coming out of high school and joining college, and he said, listen, I had all the schools to pick from, all the powerhouses, and I chose Harvard, and everyone was questioning why I did that, and it's because I wanted to start my own thing. I wanted to make Harvard a powerhouse, and Dan, when you talk about the atmosphere and how many fans were there to watch this game, even though the conditions weren't great from whatever, a player's perspective or even a fan's perspective, just being at the game and it's cold and it's snowy and it's dreary and you're outside and you're watching this game, it's good to see from a lacrosse fan that this is kind of Harvard's, they're moving up in the lacrosse realm, Adam.
Quickly before I answer this, Dan, what percentage was Syracuse fans? Because my guess just, it was hard to tell on TV, would have been like 60-40. Was it that much?
Yeah, it was more like 50-50.
Okay.
I mean, there was a large contingent of Syracuse fans. Nearly, all the parents were here. And then there were a huge amount of just regular Syracuse fans. I even talked to a couple of people that drove from Syracuse to Harvard for this game. So the Syracuse fan base traveled really well for this one. And Jerry Byrne did talk about this postgame, too. He said that this game in particular was huge for the Boston lacrosse community, and he is proud of what Harvard is doing for the Boston lacrosse community. So this program and this game had all the attention.
I know that was one of the first things that Adam and I noticed when we were watching this game was, oh, yeah, there's a decent amount of people there. So that's definitely pretty cool to see.
Back to what you were saying, though, about Graham Stevens. He was magnificent in this game, and you talk about a guy that comes to a certain program for a certain thing. He had the game on the line. It was Joey Splina, arguably the best player in the country, against Graham Stevens, and he stepped up and made an insane save to end off this game. And it wasn't even that skillful of a save, but just the moment, one-on-one, 30 seconds left to go with Splina staring you down. I mean, I could go on and on about this guy, but Jerry Byrne talked about it too. He's one of the reasons why Harvard won this game. I mean, he definitely had a chip on his shoulder ever since that overtime winner in the NCAA tournament from Owen Hiltz, and he just showed it today. He was absolutely magnificent, and Jerry Byrne talked about this too at the end. He said, you know, a lot of the time it's not about your best player winning you the game. It's about diversifying everything, and he said he felt like this was a total team effort, and it was only fitting for Pants to end the game off with a save.
Graham Stevens, a.k.a. Pants, if you didn't know. 14 saves today, a .538 save percentage, and yeah, he is. I
mean, come on, Gino. That's pretty nice if you ask me. You can't ask for much more.
No, not at all. Dan, I want to go a little bit broader picture with you here for Syracuse. The Orange take down the number one team in the country at home a week ago against Maryland. They get the number one ranking, and the talk going into this 6-game road trip, the first of which for Syracuse since the 70s, was we don't care if we have a number one in front of us. We got to make sure that we're playing our game. Now you have your first road game, first game outdoors. We already kind of talked about it. Adam's shaking his head. He's rolling his eyes over here. I know Adam was a lacrosse player growing up. It didn't matter if he was playing in a basement or if he was playing at Gillette Stadium. He's having a great game.
Oh, yeah.
He's laying the body out there, too. He's blocking shots.
I was an attackman, but scoring goals.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
I thought you were.
In high school and middle school. No.
Okay, great. Well, goal scorer. He was sniping regardless.
There you go.
But I want to go broad picture, big picture here with you, Dan. If you're Syracuse, you take this loss. If you're Coach Gary Gait, what are you telling your guys?
And that question was asked straight up after the post-game press conference. And the question was, you know, you were the number one team heading into this. Now, obviously, you're not going to be the number one team. You know, what's the message to the guys after this game? And Gary said, we just have to keep our heads down and keep working. And again, that line I told you earlier, anyone can beat anybody right now in college lacrosse. That's what he's mentioning. That's what he told us. And he said that this team just needs to keep grinding away. They think that Harvard's going to be a team that can make it even to the Final Four this year. They're a top 10, top 5 team in the country. So Gary gave Harvard all of their flowers and said, we just need to focus on us going forward. And really, the road doesn't get much easier now with Princeton. 10's an easy one, and then you got Johns Hopkins after that, which is another test. So there's a lot of challenges ahead for this team, but Gait, once again, was just urging calm, cool. He doesn't care about what the record or what the number is in front of Syracuse going forward. He still believes in his team.
Yeah. I'm very interested to see what the rankings will look like next week.
I was talking about this with a couple of our broadcasters from the game, John Baccio and Dan Papillo, and we were saying that Syracuse could fall all the way to number 5 here heading into next week.
No way. No, absolutely not. I was saying I think they can stay in I think they go down to like 3 because Maryland lost today. Maryland lost to Princeton. UNC's 3.
Georgetown?
Hold on, I'll get there. They're 4th. UNC's 3, and they're undefeated, but they beat Jacksonville by 1 and probably should have lost that game.
Hey,
Georgetown's only played
one
team. It's a fine Jacksonville team,
but a lot of games
it's not a Jacksonville team that you beat by just 1. I mean, Georgetown played a close game against Penn. We'll see what happens. They play at Notre Dame tomorrow. like, there are a lot of teams that are very flawed. Like, no one has played as good as Syracuse has up to this point, because St. Joe's, who Syracuse beat 20-2, has now gone and beaten back-to-back ranked teams since then. They beat ranked Villanova and ranked Towson. BU is winning games, and Maryland does lose, but they lose by 1 against Princeton in a very close game. Like, I think Syracuse has to stay in the top 5, and if Syracuse isn't in the top 5, I'm just gonna fact that
top 5.
Terry Foy saying last week that
question.
Syracuse wasn't guaranteed to be number 1 after beating Maryland made me angry. Like, whatever he says now is just gonna make my blood boil. Like, I would put Syracuse 3. I think I'd probably go UNC, Georgetown, then Syracuse. Like,
I would agree.
I don't think Cornell has done anything to prove that they're a better team than Syracuse, because you can't take away what Syracuse has done this year. Like let's not lose that. They dominated 2 teams that are very good in BU and St. Joe's, and they beat Maryland. Like, yes, they lose by 1 to Harvard.
It's unfortunate today that Maryland lost for Syracuse. Like, that
it is
not ideal.
But it helped. But Princeton's now better because of it. Like, you play both teams, so like I don't think it's the end of the world. But
and you want to talk about just looking ahead. I mean, that game next week is a huge one now for Syracuse, especially after this loss.
Yeah, but Adam, you think Syracuse, as soon as the game ended, you said it was a tough loss, but Syracuse will regroup.
Yeah, they will 100% regroup. This is the sport. Like, it is.
It's pretty cool to see.
I think
that
also
any team
there's
can beat
there's
any
no
team.
way you're going to go through this season without losing at least once or twice. Like, all of these teams that Syracuse has on the calendar are teams that are arguably in the top 10 every single week. I mean, especially on this road trip, too. So I think them dropping a game or 2 is really not that big of a deal.
Yeah, no, they'll be completely fine. Like, if anything, this will get them to, play harder, work harder. Just another thing, because I just got a text from someone who, there's the tweet from Leah Murphy that's going viral about how Syracuse hasn't won outside in February since 2003. And I just need to, because I've said how it frustrates me about the outside stuff.
All right, Dan, let's take a step back. Let's let Adam take it here.
They barely ever play outdoor games in February. Like, they don't schedule games on the road in February. There has been probably, less than 10 in the last 23 years or whatever it is. Like, they don't play outdoor games in February. So, yeah, they haven't won outside. And also, who cares? The Final Four is Memorial Day, like the last weekend in May when it's beautiful outside. Yeah. It's warm. Who cares that they're not winning these games when it's cold out? Like, that's the dumbest narrative. Like, oh, they can't win outside because it's February. Outside now compared to outside in the Final Four is 2 different worlds.
No, I totally agree. And that wasn't like when Dan and I were talking about it earlier. It wasn't like, oh, boy, this is something to note. It was more of just like, I wonder if this had something to do with it. And to hear that people were asking Coach Gay, like you were saying, Dan, after the game about it, and he said, listen, we were practicing outside. We were trying to get our guys prepared for that type of environment. I mean, I think it did play a little bit of a factor in today's game.
Here's the other thing. Harvard doesn't have the ability at the start of the season to practice inside all the time like Syracuse does. Most other teams don't have a incredible facility where they can
actually here at Harvard they have a bubble on the football field.
Really?
And the football team practices in the bubble on the football field because they don't have an indoor facility, an indoor practice field. So the lacrosse game actually would have been played there if it not for the football team having to practice inside of the bubble because otherwise they couldn't do spring football.
But either way, both teams have to deal with the weather. Both teams have to
100%.
Deal with being outside. Like, if anything,
no, I agree.
Syracuse being able to practice inside at the start of the season is better. Like, when I was talking to the Boston University coach a couple weeks ago, he was saying that they couldn't actually practice their full clear a lot because they didn't have enough time to be outside because it was literally too cold.
Yeah,
like
certainly
both
gives
teams
Syracuse
have to deal with it. I am just forever done with hearing this outdoor weather. Like, it's all of these guys
I think it's going to come up
outside.
a lot more now after this one, especially.
Yeah, and I'm going to keep losing my mind about it. I say this as, like, not a diss to people, but part of a diss is, like, lacrosse is a more complicated sport than football and basketball and a lot of the other sports that we usually talk about. So when they lose, it's because of the weather. It's because it's cold. No, they lost today really because they had a horrific decision for an offside, and they lost their composure. And when they had the possession with 40 seconds left, they didn't run any sort of play. Joey Spallina just ran towards the goal and took a no-angle shot. Like, that is why they lost. It is not because of the weather.
Actually, to add on to that, Adam, Gate talked about that after the game, and he said that he did not think he was going to shoot it that quickly. And I think everyone watching it was just surprised that he ripped it because he had plenty of time on the shot clock. He could have taken it down to 10 seconds.
Yeah, he could have done whatever.
He had the whole
shot clock. Yeah, right. Shot clock was off at that point, but it was those self-inflicted wounds. That's why Syracuse lost. It is not because of the weather. And here's the thing. That is an excuse. Like, that takes away from the things that Syracuse actually did bad and the things that Syracuse has to do better.
Which is the turnovers.
Yeah,
it's the 12 turnovers today.
It's those mistakes. It's McCool not playing great. It's the short stick D middies having their worst game of the season, which, by the way, we should note this. Jake Spallina did not play today, and I thought that was a big loss because Ryder Ochoa really struggled, and he played a lot more than he has in any other game. Jake Spallina, I think, is a very important player that doesn't get the love that he deserves because he's a second-line short stick D midi. But I thought we really saw that Syracuse missed him today.
Yeah, I know Ochoa last year.
And if you look back at the past couple of games, too, like Jake Spallina was a huge part of that Maryland game. That really wasn't talked about.
Yeah, and so I think Syracuse really missed him today, and I don't think we could talk about this game without mentioning him.
Yeah. Well, speaking of missing people, Dan, we miss you. We hope you come back to Syracuse safely. Try and stay warm. I hope the conditions don't affect you from getting a nice meal with the guys after this game. So thanks so much for calling in. It was a blast talking to you, my man.
Yeah, thank you guys. Have a great one.
All right, take it easy. That was Dan Shalom. He was at the Harvard game. Crimson taking down the #1 Syracuse Orange 13-12. All right, we've talked about Syracuse men's lacrosse, but still ahead here on the double overtime. We bring in our WAER talk reporter in Sam Reese. He's going to be joining the show right after this break to talk about Syracuse men's basketball losing to number 16 North Carolina from the JMA Wireless Dome. Stick around with Adam Gotkin. I'm Gino Antamarino.
If you really love somebody, if you love someone, if you love somebody, if you love someone, how do you set them free? For Snap's Fever series, we proudly present Love's Actually. Snap judgment storytelling with the beat. Do not miss it.
Sunday morning at 10 on 88.3 FM WAER.
There is a one-stop listen for everything Syracuse athletics.
Syracuse men's lacrosse had arguably maybe Gary Gates' best weekend ever as head coach.
The Ostrom Avenue podcast provides unique opinions plus exciting interviews from industry experts.
The voice of Syracuse men's lacrosse and Syracuse women's basketball as well. Tim Leonard, Javon Edmonds of Syracuse.com.
Check out weekly episodes and listen at WAER.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
A new sitcom stars Tracy Morgan as a disgraced former football star who tries to stage a comeback by making a documentary about himself. What could go wrong?
Part of what was funny to us was being confident and wrong is one of our favorite things.
Showrunner Robert Carlock joins us to talk about the new TV series, The Fall and Rise of Reggie Dinkins, on the next morning edition from NPR News.
Tomorrow morning from 5 to 9 on WAER, your local NPR station from the Newhouse School at Syracuse University.
Now down low high, working on White, back outside Vasar, pump fakes it 3, drives through the lane, a ferocious jam! Henry Vasar is fired up, and this crowd is stunned! An Estonian hammer from the 7-footer.
Welcome back into the double overtime here on WAER. I'm Adam Gotkin alongside Gino Antamarino. We're with you until 5 p.m., and we're now joined by the reporter who was at the game at the Syracuse loss to number 16 North Carolina, Sam Reese. Happy you can join us today, Sam.
Yeah,
Samuel.
A pleasure. Happy to be with you guys. I was hoping we would be talking about a Syracuse win, but
I mean,
I thought so too, but Adam was like,
no.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well then I spoke too soon.
Yeah. So
I was a little surprised, Sam.
You were there.
It was disappointing.
And of course, where our WAER studios are here on Ostrom Avenue, we can see the dome right when we walk outside, and there were a good amount of people walking towards the dome when I was walking towards the station today.
Yes.
And it was the biggest attendance of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did the attendance feel like a lot of people who were really excited for this basketball game, or more people who maybe bought their tickets in, let's say, like October because they knew UNC was coming into the dome and they were kind of just enjoying a Saturday?
Probably the latter, to be honest with you. Yeah, like the brand of UNC is always going to attract a great crowd. What really stood out to me was how many Carolina fans there were, by the way.
Yeah, I remember that with Duke last year.
Yeah, it was insane. Like, there was splatterings of Carolina blue everywhere you looked, and you could hear some of their chants towards the end when there was the mass exodus. Yeah, exactly. But I will say I think it's the latter, where UNC was in town. Everyone wanted to kind of be there for that. It's also really the last chance for seniors to go to a game, by the way, since the last home game is the start of spring break. So the student section was absolutely packed and decked out. So I think all of those were factors as to why it was such a great crowd. And it was, but unfortunately, there were only a couple of moments where there was really that loud crowd pop and something to be excited about because of how underwhelming that offensive performance was throughout the game.
We've got Chris from Georgia on the lines. He wants to talk about Adrian Autry, as does everyone. Chris, what are your thoughts right now with only 3 games left to go?
Hey, guys. Thank you. This is gonna be a calculated rant. I've called in here a couple times, kind of more measured. There's a lot of season left. Right? Well, that's no longer the case. And I know this is the reporter segment, so I'm going to hang up and listen after the fact. But the stuff that's going on in this game is just emblematic of the Syracuse season, and the program is in such a sad state. Like, the fact that these fans, they give you the largest crowd of the year, and the game was tied at 44, guys. The under-12 timeout happens. The crowd's going nuts after the William Tile dunk. Everyone's excited, right? Finally, this could be it. And then Autry doesn't change a thing. He sits on his laurels like usual. The offense dies after that, and then all of a sudden UNC's back up by 12. He's got to burn another timeout. That was terrible. And also, I'm going to say that Syracuse is Donnie Freeman. Like, sometimes a team is its best player. The fact that Donnie is so talented yet hasn't come through, he's ripping his jersey. And where's the coaching staff to prevent him from getting tossed? He's ripping his jersey. He gets teched up twice, and Autry's got his hands in his pockets. Where is the fire of a good coach? I just don't understand how Syracuse and what John Wildhack is leaving at this program is the saddest state of Syracuse basketball in history, guys, all right? They can't press. Betsy doesn't get involved until it's too late. There's no shooting on the floor. Kyan Anthony is a wasted talent where when they desperately need offense, he's not throwing the ball, and when he does, he's just spotting up. It's just, guys, I know I'm kind of going nuts here, but these are just all the issues that Syracuse has had. Also, my last point will be the end of the first half. What happened there with Nate George just chucking up a shot after a timeout, and Autry's pissed and like he's got no handle. Just a disaster, guys. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the show.
Chris, thank you so much for the call. If you want to call in like Chris, you can hit those numbers, 315-443-2011. Sam, I don't know if you remember this. We talked to Chris after the Iowa State game.
We did, yeah,
from
Vegas.
I brought this up earlier. Nothing has changed for me since then.
No.
We both said at that moment that it was over.
Yeah, right.
And
that's what it is.
Yeah.
And I think him bringing up the whole Freeman stuff, it is notable because it immediately flashed me back to the press conference with Adrian Autry where he was asked about that. Like, were you disappointed in his actions with the 2 technical fouls and getting thrown out? And I just found the answer to be very, passive, where he was like, well, the physical play of UNC is really what made Donnie frustrated. He did say, the first one can't happen, but was kind of like, he didn't really stomp down and say, that's not acceptable. And I'm just thinking, a coach kind of should be stepping in there and telling his player, you can't be getting 2 technical fouls and getting tossed from this game, even if things aren't going your way. That's just a terrible look. Like to have a game where, you're not playing as well as you want, to let that get to you and retaliate the way you did, that just can't happen. And Autry wasn't really adamant about that.
I didn't think UNC was that physical.
Right? Autry has lost the locker room.
I agree. And
I think he knows that, and that's why he's not. And it's not justifying it.
Right.
He lost the locker room after the Kansas game.
Sure.
Because
this is what I was saying.
When they lost to Houston, when they lost, I don't want to go too far. But
I don't want to go too broad, but
I knew at that point that this team just had so many lulls, and they were just he lost it. I think he lost it when they knew they couldn't win those games.
I want to bring up this quick point, and then I want to bring it back to North Carolina. But I said if Syracuse got that win over Houston, if they pulled it out, I think this is a completely different season. I think Syracuse beats Boston College. I think Syracuse beats Hofstra. And I think all of a sudden the Orange are on the bubble.
Right. Yeah. Well, on the top, I agree with you there 100%.
Not even on the bubble. I think they're in.
Potentially, yeah. And I agree with all of what you're saying. He's lost the locker room. It's been that way for a while. And we can kind of infer here, but I found William Kyle is always willing to talk for a while. And he actually talked to us for over 7 minutes, which I really respect.
Him and Kings have always been good
at talking. Very mature.
And I appreciated William's answers. I did find some of his answers to a couple of questions very fascinating.
Interesting.
And let's take a listen right now in terms of Kyle just answering questions about why the offense has been struggling the way it has been.
Maybe we're just not on the same page as far as what play we're running. So I feel like there's just that communication factor, knowing kind of what's going on and everybody kind of being on the same page. I feel like at practice, there's times where another group comes on and we ran the play before them, and then we're messing up a play. I feel like those are things we can't have happen. I feel like we need to have a lot more attention to detail.
Yeah, so that was...
What's today's date?
Exactly.
How much time is left in the season?
That's what I was shocked by. So for context, right, that first part of the question was, why are these – that first part of the answer was why is the team, struggling offensively? And it caught my attention that he said, we're confused out there on the floor. So I followed that up saying, is that a practice thing? And he immediately went, yeah, that's a practice thing, and followed that up with the second part of that answer where, they're running sets in practice and are still not executing, and that's part of why apparently this offense is still just a mess, and we have 3 games left in the regular season. So I just don't understand that at all. That's crazy to me.
Of course we don't.
The thing that strikes me, Adam, is the when he said the lack of focus, and was it was Dave that called in earlier and said, does Syracuse
have an ADD problem?
ADD problem? Dave might be on to something here.
He might be on to something there.
Maybe, I guess so.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's not surprising. I mean, we heard
and again, I appreciate his honesty.
I agree.
Do you remember at the start of the season when Autry was asked about what was different this year, in practice, and he just said that the energy was different? That is so true all season. When this team is playing well, it's because they're energized. And we saw that in the first few minutes of this game. They were playing with energy. And then the energy goes away, and you see that the actual basketball stuff is the exact same as it's been the last year.
No difference.
The last 2 years. There is no difference at all. And that's why I keep saying that none of this is ever surprising. None of this has ever changed. No. They just sometimes play with effort, and sometimes they don't.
Yeah,
right. And can never do it for really a full 40 minutes.
The only time they did was Houston, and they lost.
Energy and athleticism. That's been the 2 biggest things that I've noticed from last year to this year. And you listen to any of the top coaches in college basketball. I mean, take for instance, Rick Pitino. He talked about the difference between college basketball and the NBA is in the NBA as a coach, you're managing those talents, you're managing that athleticism, but you're managing personalities. He said in college, it's all about schematics. It's all about scheming and making sure you are lined up, ready to go against your opponent. And the game plan changes on a game-by-game basis. Now, the players who are good enough match those systems and they execute. Syracuse has the talent to execute, but there's nothing to execute.
So are you saying Adrian Autry would be a great NBA coach?
Well, yeah, you just tell them to chuck up threes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all you have. NBA coaches aren't real. So
no,
like,
that's true. But I think what you said, the difference is athleticism and effort and energy. Yeah, that takes you
not so much effort,
energy,
but energy. Yes.
That takes you from being 14 and 19 and 14th in the ACC to like 15 and 14 or whatever and 10th in the ACC. To actually be a competitive team, you can't just have more effort and be more athletic, which if you read the tea leaves at the start of the season, that seemed to be the only difference.
Sam, I want to go back to a point you mentioned earlier about Autry after the game talking about, North Carolina was physical. He said the same thing after Syracuse played North Carolina the first time around at the Dean Dome, and that was a game that I was there. I was very fortunate enough to call here on WAER, and it was a game that Syracuse was getting blown out by 20, 30 points. And then all of a sudden it was a 7-point game late in the second half, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, if Syracuse can play like they did in that stretch today, and then also with UNC losing Caleb Wilson, you also have Vasar, who's coming off of 2 games of not playing. He gets thrown back in the lineup, and he's awesome. And I'm thinking to myself, Syracuse might have a chance. And that's why I was thinking maybe Syracuse could pull this off when Adam was saying, how can you even believe that? Because I thought Syracuse had the tools to do it and now all the opportunities to do it. But I want to go back to Adrian Autry and talk about, because he said after that game against North Carolina, they're a very physical team. That's why we got shut down. Well, what did you expect going into this game? You thought they were going to back off?
Right. Like, you get to play UNC for a second time.
How can you use that excuse twice?
No, it's not an excuse. I think it was just... Again, Autry doesn't have any answers. So it was him basically saying why they lost. So, that's how their defense was, and he reiterated offense wasn't good enough, which we all saw in front of our own eyes.
Well, I saw he said today that it was just that the shots weren't falling.
Yeah, I mean, it was a combo of both. I think he pointed to a lack of execution, also kind of mentioned shots not falling. But yeah, no, I said on Sports Night last night the expectation going into this game should be a Syracuse win. They were favored at tip-off, and that's why this result is even more disappointing in my opinion, actually, because they didn't have Caleb Wilson, and UNC by the way, was like giving you a chance to win this. They were shooting awful at the line, 15 for 28. They were below 50% for a while. Like, you were given every opportunity to take advantage, and Donnie Freeman just is basically a non-factor. Like, what is he doing shooting those shots from beyond the arc and not finally driving until the second half? Like, I just don't understand that. I don't get it at all. Like, 5 of his 8 shots against Duke were 3-pointers, 3 of his 8 today, but he didn't have a point in the first half and ends up getting thrown out. Like, Donnie had to have at least 20 points in this game. You can't have JJ do it all. It's just so frustrating all around.
Has Donnie Freeman been the most disappointing player for Syracuse this season? I think it's probably him or George.
I would say
George infuriates me with the way he runs the offense.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a transfer who had so much hype and has really disappointed. Freeman, as of late, though, is giving him a run for his money, I think. Like, because when Freeman came back, he was playing very well, but now all of a sudden these big games,
but see,
he just doesn't
here's the
have
thing
it.
that I'm thinking. Like, here's what I'm thinking, right? If we're sitting here and saying, Nate George he's really underperformed, and you're looking down, I'm blanking on who. It was one of the callers earlier that said, Adrian Autry hasn't done a good job at developing players, and that is by far the case. But I'm looking at, Nate George, who was one of the premier facilitators last season in the ACC.
He had the most assists per game in the conference.
Yeah. And only behind Cadeau for assist total, and that's because Ellie Cadeau played more games with UNC.
Because of postseason.
But he takes a major step back, and you think, okay, well, Syracuse a couple years ago under Autry had Quadir Copeland coming off as a 6-man, but he was running the point, and they get rid of, he walks because he thought he was better, and he goes to NC State after a season. and he's doing really well, and he's a top facilitator for them. So I just don't know, I look at Nate George comparatively with Donnie Freeman, and we're asking ourselves who's more disappointing. I look at George, and I think that this is just not a situation that breeds success for point guards, because there's just it's just like a run and gun hero ball offense.
Pretty much.
And there's not a whole lot for George to work with. But in terms of Donnie Freeman, this was a guy that was supposed to
be
definitely an NBA pick, a first-round pick at that. And I don't think he's going to get drafted.
I think Nate George was maybe a little bit overrated. Like, that was not a good Georgia Tech team. And yes, he had a lot of assists, but I don't know how much that was.
I mean, this isn't a very good Syracuse team.
No, but Donnie, though, is
more from
talented.
Yeah.
And I think it would be a massive mistake for him to go to the draft. I don't know why he would.
I'm with you.
Because he should, and I hope he does. I hope all the best for him. He's a DC guy. Got to shout out all the DMV goats. But,
I thought this was one of his best defensive games. 3 blocks today. I thought he looked a lot more aggressive on the defensive end, but passive on the offensive side of things.
Yeah,
I think
he's got to take over.
He's going to go to Duke, UNC, or an SEC team, get $2 to $3 million, and probably work his way back into the first round. I would not be surprised at all if Donnie Freeman is drafted 20 to 30 next year. I don't think he's going to work his way to the lottery, but the talent is there.
Oh, absolutely.
And give him a good coach, and we'll see what happens. That's the whole Claudier thing.
About it.
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
agree.
I know our time's wrapping up, but this has been fun, guys. Just a few other notes I wanted to make.
Yeah, rapid fire, Sam. Rapid fire.
Because I got to talk to some players. We heard from William Kyle there. Just some interesting notes. Nate Kings was asked about what's the vibe like right now with the team heading into this final stretch, and he kind of paused and said, I don't really know. So going back to the locker room conversation, everyone seems defeated. And then J.J. Starling as well, actually pretty emotional. A 22-point performance, he had his best effort, but when he was asked sort of, with your senior year winding down, I think it kind of kicked into him that this is his 3rd and final year at Syracuse, and it's coming to an end shortly. And obviously J.J. Starling, it didn't go how it wanted for him at Syracuse. I think he expected to kind of help get this team back into the tournament. So
I think
just a lot of emotion there. Yeah. So players seem defeated, and you can't really blame them in this spot. It stinks.
Yeah, it definitely does. Sam, thank you so much for joining us.
No chance anymore.
Thanks for having me.
So that's unfortunately all the time we've got for you. We do have about 10 minutes left in the double overtime. We are going to take a short break, but don't go anywhere because we've got our final words in just a minute.
There is a one-stop listen for everything Syracuse athletics.
Syracuse men's lacrosse had arguably maybe Gary Gates' best weekend ever as head coach.
The Ostrom Avenue podcast provides unique opinions plus exciting interviews from industry experts.
The voice of Syracuse men's lacrosse and Syracuse women's basketball as well. Tim Leonard, Javon Edmonds of Syracuse.com.
Check out weekly episodes and listen at WAER.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
Thanks for listening. We hope you're enjoying this WAER sports broadcast. Our sports staff goes where the teams go, home and away, and prepare for days before each game broadcast. Our talk show and podcast hosts analyze games, pore over stats, and keep up on sports trends. These and many behind-the-scenes opportunities are made possible by listener donations. So if you're a fan or an alum, donate to keep our sports legacy strong at WAER.org and click donate.
Sidney White on the right wing, rises for a layup, puts it home on Vasar. Syracuse down by 2, went right into the chest of Vasar and kissed that one off the glass. Double clutch, hang in the air for the finish.
Wrapping up shop here on the double overtime with Adam Gotkin. I'm Gino Antamarino. Got you up until 5 o'clock. We had a jam-packed show talking about Syracuse men's lacrosse, the number 1 team in the country, falling to number 14 Harvard on the road. The first road game of the season for Syracuse ends in Syracuse's first loss of the season. We also talked Syracuse men's basketball falling to number 16 North Carolina inside the JMA Wireless Dome earlier today. We just had our reporter Sam Reese talk and give his thoughts from inside the dome. Now it's time for us, Adam and I, to take over and give our final words. Adam, would you like to go first? Or
I'd love to.
Okay.
So I think mine, pretty obvious if you've been listening to this show. I am so done with this basketball season. I am fully focused on lacrosse because I love lacrosse, and I think that this team will be just fine. Yes, you lose. Yes, like, it stinks.
Mm-hmm.
But in the world of college lacrosse that we live in now, it is just February, and you will be just okay. Maryland lost today. You know, there are so many teams that have lost games already. Princeton lost last week. You are totally fine. This is a learning moment. It's an opportunity to realize, okay, we fixed some things against Maryland by moving Michael Leo to attack, but that doesn't fix everything. Like, there are still stuff that has to be changed, still things that have to be worked on, and it was a learning experience. But at the end of the day, this team is going to be fine. We saw them lose last year to Harvard in the regular season at home. And they went on to run to the Final Four. Now they have a unbelievably difficult schedule where they will make the NCAA tournament no matter what, and they will be more battle-tested than anyone else, and they will be just fine. This loss does nothing but prepare them better for the future, and I have no doubt at all in my mind that this team will be there Memorial Day weekend, and I still am very, very convinced that they will win the national championship. And this game did absolutely nothing to change my mind on that. And if you listen to the whole show, you know how much of a pessimist I can be when it comes to this basketball team. But in terms of lacrosse, today changed nothing for me. They'll be okay.
Yeah, and you said that even right after the game ended. You said, listen, tough loss, but I think, I know Syracuse will bounce back from this. So 5 more games left on this 6-game road trip, and obviously Syracuse has got to kick it into gear a little bit because, like you said, anyone can beat anybody, and just because you have that number 1 in front of your name doesn't mean it's going to be smooth sailing from there. You got a target on your back.
You almost don't want it because of that target.
Right.
Like,
so I think
everyone's going after you.
Yeah, maybe it was a little beneficial to get this first
You
loss.
had to lose at some points, and to
go back to
chasing
the drawing board.
Chasing perfection, especially when you're already chasing so much this year, would have been too much.
I agree. My final word, I think what I needed to say about all of the teams here at Syracuse have been said. I'm disappointed in men's basketball. I thought they had a chance today against North Carolina. This team's dejected. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't even really try in the ACC tournament because this is a team that doesn't really have a lot to gain, to be honest with you. And men's lacrosse, we talked about it. We think they're going to bounce back. My final word, I'm going to go to Italy for this one. United States. Adam, you're the hockey guy or the lacrosse guy. I'll be the hockey guy right now. USA taking on Canada tomorrow for the gold. That's, oh my gosh.
I'm setting my alarm literally right now.
Face-off. This is what we've been waiting for, people. 8 a.m. You better be up and at 'em at 7:30, rocking your United States gear. This is going to be 7:45. That's fine. This is going to be an electric game. USA versus Canada. The United States trying to win its first gold medal since 1980. I was thinking of 2010, the last time these two teams competed in a gold medal. The golden goal, Sidney Crosby scored for Team Canada. And United States have some revenge to get to. All right, that pretty much does it for us here on the Double Overtime. Our next broadcast, lacrosse, this Friday, February 27th at 4 p.m. McClure Remodeling, countdown to face-off at 3:30. Double Overtime until 7:30 with Timmy Weiss and John Baccio. Our next basketball broadcast, Saturday, February 28th at 5:45. McClure Remodeling, countdown to tip-off at 5:30, taking on Wake Forest down in Demon Deacon territory. Also, make sure to listen to the Ostrom Avenue podcast, wherever you get your pods, or at WAER WAER.org. Some thank yous to hand out quickly. We got our producer, Jason Stalakis. Always a treat getting to speak with Jason and have him craft these rundowns and giving us all the tools we need to be successful here on the air and here at WAER. Our engineer, Josh Richardson, trying to lead us to glory in the Media Cup. We came up a little bit short, but Josh had himself a heck of a game.
He got fouled.
He did get fouled at the very end. Make sure you go. We had all the live tweets going on Twitter. Make sure you go back on our timeline, WAER Sports, and check all those out. Great time. Shout out to our men's basketball reporter, Sam Reese, our men's lacrosse reporter, Dan Shalom, WAER desk, Cadence Kilhoff, Austin Raish, Rowan Mastrangelo, all three of them working their butts off to make this an excellent double overtime. For my good friend Adam Gotkin, I'm Gino Antamarino saying so long, Syracuse, and enjoy the rest of your Saturday.